It's all yours.
Okay. Meeting, so this meeting and all other regular meetings of our council are put on the. If we can now please stand and take the silence and the flag salute.
Mayor, Mayor, you are still breaking up pretty badly.
I don't know what to do, Councilman Mel.
It's nice.
Can you hear me good?
Alex, now we
I
can.
can hear you now. Yeah, did you go outside
All
like
right,
I do?
No, I always am.
Sounds like you got broken a bad wire or something, bad connection.
I don't know. It's all wireless, Steve. It's my tablet. The only thing I've got hooked up
Now
otherwise
you're
are my
perfect.
earbuds.
Well, right
Now
now,
you're
whatever
all
you
right.
just did, now you're perfectly clear. Whatever you just did.
All right, I'll have to be closer. That's all.
Yeah, that works.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. Let's have a moment of silence and a flag salute then. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
All right, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from May the 15th?
Yes.
Yes.
Was it the 15th or was it the
18th.
18th?
I apologize. It's the 18th. I'll correct the agenda.
Okay,
I'll move to approve them, Mayor.
Second, Stillo.
Okay, Babinski,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Dillo,
Yes.
and Slack.
yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Melvin, I see Kevin Benbrook just sent me a text, having difficulty getting on.
You lost me at the last part. It looks like what?
It looks like Kevin Benbrook is online now. He texted me, he was difficulty getting on, but it sounds like we
Okay.
have him. All right,
Yeah.
moving on from minutes, do I have a motion to pay the bills? Well, first off, does anybody have any questions or problems with any?
I'm good.
If everybody's all right with them, I'll entertain a motion to move them forward.
So moved.
I'll move. Second, Stillo.
Okay, Babinski,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
Slack.
Yes. All right, public comments pertaining to agenda items and agenda items only. Councilman Melvin, if we have anybody from the public that would like to comment, please be recognized by Councilman Melvin and have your comment.
So if you'd like to make a comment on agenda items only at this point, there'll be another session for public comments at the end of the meeting, but pertaining to agenda items, please use the raise hand feature within the application, or if you're on a phone, you can ask to be recognized. Mayor, I don't see anybody looking to be recognized for public comments on agenda items.
All right, thank you, Councilman Melvin. We're going to start out with our training report. Kevin, do you have anything for us this evening?
Well, I see we have the resolution on the agenda with respect to the shared services agreement with Greenwich. So you can talk about that when we get to that part of the agenda. We have the cannabis ordinance on for first reading. So again, we could discuss that briefly. I will send you guys a memo. I was working on it today for all my municipalities, but as you guys are aware, the legislature enacted legislation effectively ending the public health emergency as of July 4, 30 days from June 4. The state of emergency still continues per Governor Murphy's executive order, which was signed the very next day. So I'm going through that, and there are also several prior executive orders, most of which are not applicable to anything we do, that remain in effect. But I'm going to go through. I'll give you guys a memo tomorrow. I'm not clear. I'll find it. I'll have an answer for you guys by tomorrow whether ending the public health emergency means we have to go back to regular live meetings, or whether the continuation of the state of emergency would let us continue in this fashion. So I will get you guys that information and then leave it up to you as to how you want to have the next meeting. I did get and circulated today some revised descriptions and a revised map for the subdivision lot over at the school. So I've circulated that to the school attorney and to John Stillo and Kevin Melvin, because putting that. I also, since our last meeting, Carrie received 2 orders for redemption on properties with respect to which were already foreclosed. And I think we have circulated some information on the properties we now own, but some of those certainly have value. Those 2, what happened is we have priority tax certificate liens. There were other liens out there. They had started foreclosure, but I properly served them with notice of our foreclosure, as is required to do by the rules. They didn't redeem at that point in time, and we proceeded to judgment. So I uploaded a letter to Judge Goodsight just explaining that in both cases. But as far as I'm concerned, their foreclosure's over. We already own the properties. But in any event, those 2 and perhaps some of the others definitely have some value for you guys. I think I've got some information, and we're getting that together for you. But you may want to go out to. We may want to go out to auction at some point later this year that you guys can generate some revenue, maybe some decent revenue, and also get those properties back on the active tax rolls. So, we'll be working on that over the next month or so. We no changes on the tax appeal litigation. That's has a firm date now for, I think, August 15. So that'll be tried in August, and that cloud that's been hanging over our head will be resolved one way or the other. I don't expect an immediate decision. I expect the judge to sit on it for a while, but certainly I'm hoping by fall we'll have some resolution of that litigation. Settlement is out of the question. That we're just about, we're a million miles apart. I did.
And what was that date? You said, I missed the.
I believe it's August 16, Kevin.
Okay.
The judge booked out a whole week for the trial. And believe me, he was unhappy about the last request for adjournment, which was actually to accommodate our expert being out of state for his daughter's his daughter was having a baby. So in any event, that date's not going to change. We will try that case unless there's something really emergent happens. I did, after our last meeting, circulated a detailed memo and some of the sample ordinance I'd come up with to our land use board about both the quarry and about the Airbnb issue. And I laid out in that memo, and you guys hopefully have a copy of it. I think I don't know if I sent it all to you guys or through Wanda, but I did recheck the municipal land use law, and under both scenarios, the problem becomes you have super notice provisions whenever you're changing a classification in any zone. Of course, the Airbnb could be changes to multiple zones that we have. quarry zone also would, require super notice. So, which could be, really time that potentially sending out notices to, most of the township by certified mail and things. It can be very expensive and cumbersome for us that route. So I know I mentioned this before, but I did set it out in the memo. I mean, many, many times in other municipalities, working with Jim Kyle, by the way, our planner, we don't have to do the full enchilada re-exam. I've suggested that the land use board talk to Jim about just a limited re-exam, and that would give us the cover to include, ordinance revisions on both these topics without these full super notice provisions, because that's an exception. We would still follow regular order in terms of first reading, referral to the planning board, adoption, but we wouldn't have to do all this excessive special super notice requirements. So I have circulated that. I mean, I did speak with Wayne Wolver directly, who really called me for some guidance. I guess Tony Spazzaro has been pretty tied up with other issues in other townships, or maybe those warehouses or something in White Township. And, so I did suggest to Wayne, he really has to get, Tony's attention. I've copied Tony directly on all this stuff. This isn't the first time I have. I mean, I've been trying to communicate with him on the quarry, but apparently he's pretty jammed up work-wise. But it is an important issue for us as a town. So I have given that to Wayne, talked to Wayne, and I did send it to Jim Kyle as well. Jim may have some even better ideas in terms of, especially the Airbnb stuff. But I am trying to move that along as rapidly as we can. But I just think the super notice provisions would be, especially with the Airbnb. I mean, we might have to notice like most of the town. So that's where that stands. I'm trying to think, guys, was there any other issues that you guys were looking for me to address?
Kevin, real quick, back
Yeah.
to the meetings. I would really like to see the land use board have live meetings again. We're going to have that industrial park thing come up like really, really, really soon, and it just can't be done this way.
I'm not positive yet, Steve. Again, I'll tell you guys definitively tomorrow, but it may be at this point with the public health emergency done as of July 4, we may be required to have regular meetings. Now, that doesn't mean if you guys decide to, you could still do a hybrid and keep something like this going. But
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. The land use board really needs to hear that thing live. There's going to be a lot of people,
Yeah.
and it's going to be really hard doing it this way.
Steve, I'll talk briefly about that in my report. Wanda and I did some homework today. We need to make a decision tonight about that particular meeting.
Is that on
for
the
the land
variance,
use
Steve?
board.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Was that on the variance for the business park, Steve? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, yeah, it's actually they're not looking for any variances or anything. They're approved to do what they want to do, but there's going to be expert witnesses, engineers, attorneys,
I
the
thought
whole
they
9
needed,
yards.
I thought they needed a variance from impervious coverage or something like that.
No,
didn't
they revised
No.
they revised their application.
Oh,
so
they
everything
did
was
revise the
valid.
application. Okay.
It meets all the variances. They're all-
Okay, I wasn't
they're all the
aware of that.
ordinances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will outline that for the land use board as well tomorrow. But listen, you guys are entitled to go back to live meetings anytime you want already. And we can discuss that tonight. But what I'm saying is it might actually be mandatory after July 4. But I'll review the executive order more carefully tomorrow and let you guys know. But if the land use board wants to go and you think it's going to now, one thing I can tell you is the social distancing and mask requirements are now gone for our indoor meetings. So again, so we should not have a problem going live because we don't have to spread anybody out anymore. Now, Steve, if you think that land use board application is going to be, a hot topic with a lot of people anyway, I mean, maybe we couldn't fit them all in anyway. Maybe we should schedule that for the school. I don't know, but
No, I think we'll fit them all in.
we'll fit them in.
Is there
Okay.
is there off the top of your head, what about the capacity requirements? Are they all wide open now?
Gone,
Gone.
Okay,
all wide open.
okay.
I spoke, or Wanda spoke with our insurance carrier to make sure we would be covered if something would happen, that we would get an out from a meeting, and according to Susan, I believe it was Susan, we would have coverage if we would decide to have meetings in person.
That was Sharon
That was-
Cooper, Mayor.
Yeah.
Sharon, not Susan, okay. And we had it over with the chief, and that was the first Chief Rob said, was talk to the insurance agent and make sure we're covered if something would happen. And Scott Robb more or less said he didn't care either way, but he said make sure we have coverage if something would happen.
Mhm.
That still doesn't mean we shouldn't maybe take temperatures or have somebody there at the door as the people come in, I don't know, and keep track of who comes in and who's attending the meeting. We should have a roster sheet at minimum and keep track of at least who came. That way, if
Mhm.
something would happen and we would have to trace, we would have something.
I mean, we do have, as does any employer. I mean, although I don't know that the public would be too enthused about it, but I mean, we do have the ability to require mask wearing, even though the executive order specifically says you can't. You can decide to remain cautious. I don't know. We may get a lot of pushback on that from the public, though.
I would say it would be optional, Kevin. I think you're going
Yeah, I would agree. I would
think if
agree.
the-
I mean, there's a lot of people vaccinated too now.
Right.
Right.
The thing is, we need
the
to
only
make a
thing if we-
decision tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Because-
if we, I'm sorry, Dave, I keep talking over you. My apologies. I think I'm on a delay or something here, but I was gonna say, if you guys decide tonight, then Wanda and I will have to renotice, I think, right, Wanda? Because we'll have to do one more public notice, I think.
Kevin, when we advertised this year, we said that the meetings would be online through May.
Oh, okay, so we'll be okay then. All right.
I think we'd be okay because
Okay.
this one was, I advertised it that it was going to be online, but I think
Geez,
we'd
you
be
and I-
okay.
You and I had a crystal ball. Go
How
figure.
about it? Almost,
All right.
almost.
Okay.
Well, I tell you what, while we're on the topic now, Kevin, I don't mean to butt in, but why don't we make some kind of decision on at least just at minimum, the land use board meetings, go back to in person. I know, Chair has no objections. Officer or Chief Rob has no objections. But I wanted it to be a council decision or something we all discussed. But Barbara needs to know so she can advertise by Friday, correct, Wanda?
Then I'll make a motion then that we go back to live sessions.
Yeah,
Go
why don't
ahead,
we,
Mr. Ward.
Steve,
Can
why
we
don't
make,
a
can
motion
we,
to
for all, can we make that
reopen
for
the municipal
all?
building for all meetings?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
I don't want to limit it to the land use. The land
Right.
use is our biggest
Not
body.
either, but we were
Yeah.
talking about that, so
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah.
So is
Do
that
you
your
want
motion,
to,
Steve?
do you want to say an effective date?
July 4th.
Effective immediately.
Because,
It-
because I think the land use board has their meeting at the last Monday
26th.
in
Last
June.
Monday
Yeah.
of the month.
Let's make it
What,
effective, effective immediately is okay.
Okay.
Wanda, are you reopened to the public at this point?
We are currently by appointment only.
Do we want to reopen you too, or what are your guys' feelings and Wanda's feelings on that?
That's fine with me. I don't care.
So why don't we just make a
I said
motion to
reopen.
reopen the municipal building for all purposes?
The only thing is
Ingrid, what about,
we can't do the
sorry.
court. We can't do the court. I'm
Well,
sorry.
yeah, the court's its own animal, but that we're not including the court. They're controlled by the AOC.
Wanda, what about the historical commission meeting? I know Michael Margulies sent you some WebEx information about the meeting.
I
to,
asked Michael to hold off because I thought council would decide tonight. So I told him I'll
Okay,
post
good.
it, but let's just wait because I think you might be able to meet in public. So I can let him know that
Okay.
tomorrow.
Terrific, thank you.
Okay.
So we have
any other discussion on the topic?
So Steve, are you going to revise your motion to open up everything?
That's revised,
Second,
effective
Melvin.
immediately. Yep, Ocean. The
Melvin
motion
and
is, yeah,
change-
open, Kevin, everything up.
Yeah.
Council and land use board
And the administrative offices. too.
and the building,
Yeah.
yes.
I'll second it, Melvin.
Okay. And the first was Babinski, right? So
Yeah.
Babinski,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
and Slack.
Yes. All right, anything else, Counselor?
I don't think so. I think we're in pretty good shape.
Kevin, do we want to make mention about the contact we had from the contract purchaser on the mall or not?
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to meet with the mayor and I've been very cautious about that because, that created some issues in Franklin Township where I represent. Now, ours is a different situation. Our redevelopment designation's already been approved by, not only by us, but by DCA. But any redevelopment plan ultimately, would come before our council and the mayor would potentially be voting on that. So I'm just a little bit cautious. So I just advised their attorney, of my concerns. I don't want anybody from the public to come in and say, hey, our mayor's been prejudiced. He had pre-meetings with the developer, et cetera, et cetera. So I think for now that's on hold. They have asked us to designate them as the redeveloper, and I don't think that I got you that resolution for tonight, but it'll be on your next meeting agenda. That's another step in the process. I did speak briefly with Doug Steinhardt. I understand that OPACON's redevelopment study is moving along. I don't know, Mayor, if you have any further information on that. That would include the
And that
mall.
was the information I got from Doug at the last time.
Yeah,
Spoke
that would
with
include
him.
the mall. That would include the piece behind the mall that's currently farmed by Mr. Santini, and it also includes some tracks in Powhatan Township going down 22. So at this point, nothing that happens on redevelopment is going to affect that tax litigation. That's going forward, come heck or high water. But it would still be very nice if Lopakon got on board, because then we could sit down in a logical fashion and redevelop the entire site as a unified site, which of course it is. The other thing I need to get to you guys is I wanted, and again, one thing I can't wait to get back to live meetings, because sometimes I lose track of things. Have we done a resolution directing the land use board to do the study on the piece in the back of the mall?
Yes, we did, but I'm not sure
they
about that
start-
because it's farmland. And I think Barbara has that on the agenda for their next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
we haven't heard that one yet.
Okay.
From land use.
but we did the resolution on our part.
Mhm.
Well, that resolution is mandatory. I mean, the land use board has to, start the study. Now, the results could be different there. You're right, because it's farmland. And there is some pushback on redevelopment designations on certain farmland on that particular piece, because it's surrounded by, the mall already and the residential complex on the other side in Opakon. It may not be controversial, but at the end of the day, it'll be up to you guys. That was it, I think, then, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Kevin. All right, moving on to engineers report. Do we have Wayne Ingram with us this evening?
I don't see Wayne.
Dave,
don't
I
see
think
him
he
online.
sent us a memo that he would not be at the meeting.
Oh, okay.
I know there's a written report
did
that we
send his
all
report.
received. Does anybody have
Yeah.
any questions on Wayne's written report?
I do. He did not, at the last meeting, he said he had been contacted by two different divisions within the DEP, solid waste and general enforcement, and provided them with documents they requested, and he said he'd follow up with them to learn what concerns they had. His report didn't have anything addressing that. He said they had provided him with copies of violations issued to the former owner of the quarry that seem to have never rectified back to 2006. Most of it to do with the discharge of the water. And the mayor asked Mr. Ingram to follow up on that, and Mr. Ingram agreed to do that, but thought that they were likely from the prior owner's stormwater discharge permit, that it would be too late to comply with reporting from years ago. And then he said that the new owner has not discharged anything to this point, but he would follow up with the NJDEP. So that piece is missing from his report on what happened with that part.
All right, well, we'll have to keep on Wayne about that to follow on that. Anybody else have a question for Wayne's report? If not, we'll have to make a mental note of what we need to ask him and make sure it gets addressed.
I can email him tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Wanda. All right, we're going to move on to town council reports. We'll start out with Councilman Babinski.
Sure. This is the DPW report from May 18th to June 15th. They disinfected the municipal building daily on the days that the cleaning lady does it. And before I go any further, is that something they'll need to continue to do?
It's up to you guys. That's no longer required either.
Okay.
I would say just to do it after big meetings like the land use board meetings.
I
Okay.
would concur.
So after council and land use,
Yeah,
do it then. I'll tell Jeff that. Okay.
after
They,
meetings.
yeah, right. Yep. They continued roadside mowing. They weed whacked all the guide rails throughout the township. They cleaned and checked drainage throughout the township roadways. They cut and chipped trees that came down with the heavy rains on 526. They cut and chipped trees that fell in the rain ditch at the end of Hunt Avenue. They had Peterson Tree Service come in, take down 2 trees that were split and hanging over the power wires on River and Pinchers Point roads. They serviced 75-15 police vehicle and 75-14 police vehicle. They replaced on 75-16 the rear brakes and the rotors. They replaced the windshield washer fluid lines that were rotted through. They replaced brakes and rotors on the rear of the DPW vehicle 15, and they replaced just the brakes on the front of DPW 16. They poured the concrete sidewalk from the mailbox to the existing sidewalk at the municipal building. They had a Zoom meeting with Jason from the engineer's office with the scope of work to be done on Ohio Avenue for granted monies from the state. They then met with Olivia from the engineer's office a few days later, and she took pictures of all the problem areas on the project. The guide rail project is completed throughout the township. I'll go back to that. They put 3/4 DGA stone under the guide rails on Pinchers Point Road and River Road to backfill around all the guide rail posts. They replaced the hydraulic lines on the Bomford mower head. They assisted the Alpha DPW with their yearly cleanup with one-man operating hour loader. Ehrlich is to start our yearly weed spraying throughout the township, the guide rails, curb lines, gabion sections, and the parks and ball fields. I'm going to go back to the guide rail project is completed throughout the township. I really don't think it is. And Dave and I had talked about this a while back, about how they had mismatched posts throughout the township that just kind of looks like hell. And Wayne was going to address that. I don't think it's ever been addressed. There were a couple other little issues. I know Kevin is having brain fade. Kevin down at the end of Winters Road, Cyphers, Kevin Cyphers, yeah. They put guide rail in front of his entire property where he had benches and chairs and that sort of thing. And they didn't put a gate or anything like that. He can't get a lawnmower in there to cut his grass. Wayne said that they would address that. They have not addressed that. So as far as I'm concerned, the guide rail project is not complete. And I don't know if they've submitted a final bill or not, but I certainly wouldn't pay it until everything is completed. And if you
Councilman-
remember, Dave, we talked about that too, you know?
You know about the little mishap with the train as well, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Yep.
I don't know if it's been rectified, where the blame has fallen with who there or what, but that needs to get addressed as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot. So to make a long story short, I guess when a bill comes in, I certainly wouldn't pay it until I think we're all satisfied with everything that's been completed. If anybody else disagrees with that, please let me know. But I will tell Jeff that. That's my opinion on it. It was a lot of money, and just some of it just doesn't look right. The
I
other
think
thing,
we already have those bills, Councilman Babinski. So
okay,
I can email Joe, our CFO, and Wayne to tell them to make sure that that's all completed before we submit anything in for payment, because we pay it and then get reimbursed from the DOT.
mhm.
So maybe just I'll email them to hold up.
I would email the hold up and especially Joe, um, and then have him get a hold of us, Dave or me or whatever, and
Mhm.
if they start rattling his cage for payment, to make sure that everything is done to our satisfaction.
Mhm.
I guess your roof is leaking in the municipal building again, Wanda.
Over at the court,
Okay,
in the
so
hallway to the court, I had to call out the heating and air conditioning place. I forget what they're called now. They come out of Ringo's since Al Jarvis is not, or he moved out to Montana. And
right,
they came and it was a problem with the unit backfilling. Like something happens with the valve, and then instead of condensing and
okay, so
evaporating it,
this is not a rainwater problem.
it's not a
This is
rainwater, it's a condensation problem.
okay,
Steve,
yes,
there is a rainwater problem over there too.
okay.
It's
Is
been
that what
leaking.
you have on here? Is that it's a rainwater problem?
Yes, there is a rainwater problem over there in their office, not in the hallway. The hallway was an air conditioner problem.
All right. So can we just go ahead and get someone in to fix that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who you want to go back to. I don't know if it's going to be the roofing contractor when they did the building.
Well, they ought to be
Um,
making good on it, I would have to think. I don't know what our limitations are. The building's been done for several years.
Well, they've
But
been
I
back. They've been back a couple times trying to figure out where it's leaking.
uh-huh. Well,
So,
I guess that's where I would start.
okay. And as far as the guide rail project, Steve, they did come back and pull the posts out that were supposed to be pulled out that were all mismatched.
Okay.
Um,
I did not notice that.
yes, that's all been taken care of on that part.
All right.
The Cyphers property, from what I can gather, I spoke to Jason about that, and with how they have it written up, they're gonna see if they can do something after the state does their drive-through inspection. But they couldn't break it up as of right now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, whatever. I don't see why they couldn't have overlapped it or something. If they had left the county's guide rail in instead of taking it out, and they could have brought the other one in just around the outside of it, and then there'd have been room to walk through there. But
Well,
what about
I believe on the project, there was discussion with the county, and that's what they needed or wanted to have done, tied all the way up through to where that concrete cable guy where it was.
right.
But just to give you a heads up on that.
Okay. Good enough. Well, that's my report.
Thank you, Steve. Moving on, Ingrid?
Yeah, just to go back to the train incident with the guide rails. Really, Jeff Lovett did an amazing job. It was a Saturday. He was on the job. He came down and he helped rectify that situation. And it was just maybe an hour of interruption of that train service because of the response he gave. So I just think we should recognize that was really a wonderful thing he did to get that going again. As far as my report goes, regarding the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, I tried to attend the May meeting, but despite calling in as an attendee, I was left in the waiting room. Whoever was managing the online meeting did not let me in, and I waited and waited. I did get in touch with Jim Kern, and he told me the meeting was short and there was an extra meeting scheduled for the 1st of July, and there will be some type of amendment to the solid waste plan, and that would be probably an in-person meeting. So I'm looking forward to that. Having been appointed to that committee, I was really prepared for that meeting, and I look forward to seeing what this amendment is. I visited Hoots on Sunday, the old Hoots, and I was given a tour by Corey Woolbach, the owner, and it's looking really great. He has a long bar counter installed. The walls and trim have been painted, and he's laid down beautiful flooring. The kitchen is just awaiting the installation of stove and refrigeration units, and Corey projects to be open in a month or two. The second floor wraparound porch is really cool. It provides a really nice view of the bridge and the river. He can get approval, partial approval, to be open on the first floor. So regarding the second floor and that wraparound porch, that's in the future, but it's really, really a nice job that he's doing down there. The last meeting I mentioned the concern a River Road resident had about some railroad cars that transport large shipping containers, and it was parked on the rails bordering her property, and it blocked her view of the river. And of course, council said that's a railroad thing. Well, she reached out and contacted the railroad, who solved the problem for her by disconnecting a section of these cars and parking the cars that obscured her view up the tracks from her property, which gave her back her view of the river. So I'd like to thank the railroad for being so accommodating to this resident. Regarding the railroad crossing, where the accidents and fatalities have occurred, the guide rails have been installed, but there's been no movement on correcting the width between the rails and the pavement yet. So I guess we'll just have to see where that goes with the railroad. The Historic Commission will be meeting on the 23rd. I guess we'll probably be in person now. Shimer Mansion's annual garden tour is June 26th, and it will start at Shimer Mansion, where there will be another yard sale that day. It will be a self-guided tour this year of some beautiful gardens in Pohatcong, and the funds will benefit the restoration efforts. A cleanup of the grounds of Shimer Mansion is scheduled for this Saturday from 9 to noon. And anyone who can come to help with small jobs from trimming and weeding to mowing would be appreciated. You don't have to be there the whole time, but any 30 minutes you can spend would be very helpful. I've received numerous complaints about the stones falling off the overloaded quarry trucks, and the street sweeper that they have does a very poor job of cleaning it up. And one of the concerns a resident had mentioned was about the bicyclists that come down on the weekends when the trucks aren't so active, and you have all of those little stones, and it's just dangerous. So I don't know what we can do about that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Richard. Moving on, Councilman Melvin.
All right, Mayor, I'm going to start first off with the court and the court reports for Pohatcong. Traffic complaints issued for the month of May, 764, disposed 688. Criminal complaints issued was 87, disposed 37. The deposit into the treasury for the township was $7,484.43, bringing the year-to-date total through end of May to $29,936.70. For Greenwich, their traffic complaints were 948. Number of complaints disposed were 903. Number of criminal complaints was 42, and the number of criminal complaints disposed was 14. Their deposit into our treasury was $6,543.07, and year-to-date through end of May is $31,200.82. Also want to just say that the shared services agreement, it's on the agenda for this evening. So Greenwich have approved to move forward with our proposal. And once we push through this, vote on this and get this through this motion tonight, then we'll get that process situated. And last thing for the court is that we had a resignation a couple months ago, and we've got on the agenda again tonight an employment offer for Noel Mueller, who is for the position of municipal court violations clerk. So that is the court reports. Moving on to the fire department. So from a fire department report from Chief Nigro, they had 16 fire-related calls, 6 EMS related calls. Members of the fire company attended ladder training at the Warren County Fire Academy on May 25th. They also were scheduled to attend a boater safety course from the New Jersey SP on Saturday, June 26th. So that's coming up here. And the status of the boat is that we're still pending that motor to be delivered. So we're looking forward to that to come in. They did have the annual pump and ladder test. That's going to be scheduled for July 13th, 2021. The annual hose test is also scheduled for July 20th. Our engine 7562 is back from repair, but while testing it out, some of the members found an issue with the steering. So Chief Nigro asked the insurance company to hold off on final payment for the repair until the truck is completed and back to its original specifications. Additionally, members of the fire company attended mandatory yearly courses, including community right to know, bloodborne pathogen awareness, and hazardous materials awareness. And all members of the fire company had completed their annual SCBA fit testing. And that's it for the fire department. And tonight, I'm going to kick it over to Sergeant Cozy to update us on the police report activity.
Thank you, Councilman Melvin. We had 1,568 calls for service. We had 646 traffic stops, 335 citations were issued, 245 radar details, 35 crash investigations, and 28 arrests.
Great. Thank you, Sergeant. And the other thing is Mayor, that a few of our commissions haven't been meeting since COVID. So what we'll do is we'll move forward now with the Economic Development Commission. So we'll start to schedule those meetings. Wanda, I will reach out to you about noticing for them probably for the rest of the year to make sure we're aligned there. And we'll get that sorted. We were holding those back until we were ready to go live in session. And Mayor, that's it for my report.
All right, Councilman. One quick question. Any thoughts on National Night Out from the fire department at all? Do you think we'll have that this year?
This is Tom. As long as Chief Rob's okay with it and wants to do it, we'll definitely help out anywhere we can.
What date is that usually, Tom? Is that in August usually or not?
Yeah, it's August.
Yes, definitely
All right.
August.
I will talk with Chief Rob and see if we can start planning that and figure on having that this year. I know that's a big thing for the community. At least if we could actually have it and get everybody out again like we always do.
Yeah, definitely agree. Any help we can, we'll definitely be there.
All right,
Ingrid,
very
you had
good, Tom. Thank you.
Ingrid, you had a question on my report?
Yeah, I just wondered about a land use board update. When is the quarry coming up?
I would have to check with Barbara Margulies, but the next meeting is the last Monday of June. I haven't seen an agenda yet. As Kevin Bembrook mentioned, both the quarry and the Airbnb ordinance pieces have been forwarded to, over to the land use board to pick up and take action on. But I don't know when they're scheduled for from an agenda perspective.
I believe the quarry is
Okay,
going to
and
be,
I know, Go ahead.
Ingrid, I believe it'll be a little while before the quarry because I think they their engineer is also the same thing that Tony Spacero is working on with the warehouses in White Township, and I think yeah, I think it's going to be off for another month or so.
okay, thank you. I noticed that the land use board has an extra meeting scheduled in July. Like usually you have two, and I saw on the calendar today that there were three.
No, there shouldn't be three. It should always be two.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
second Tuesday and last Monday of the month. And then if it's not required due to lack of agenda items, the meeting will be canceled.
All right, thanks, Gab.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Councilman Mel. Moving on to Councilman Stillo.
All right, I talked to Joe today, as CFO. Work continues with the state for adoption of the 2021 budget, expected to be in July. The state still has not adopted it, so that's hopefully by next board council meeting, it will be adopted. The 2020 audit is in the process of being wrapped for the acceptance in July, August. The state extended the due date to 9/30/21, so be well ahead of the statutory date. For July, we'll have a resolution memorializing, applying and accepting the ARP funds estimated to be $322,000. We will have the files ready in the next few weeks for applying, and there's still items being ironed out. We may need a new bank account for the funds because these items should be clarified in the next few weeks.
John,
And,
what's ARP? I'm at a disadvantage. What's ARP? You said ARP funds?
Yeah, Joe, when Joe sent me the, I can follow up on that, Kevin, but he just sent me that the ARP funds. So I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'll follow up with him and I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And that's it, Mayor.
Councilman Stillo, I think see if Joe can get that money cut for the Tap for Humanity project.
Okay.
As far as I know, none of that's been done yet. We talked to Tiff today, and she said she has no checks to them. But I know they have started work on that project, and I'm sure they could use the funding to help that get going.
Okay, we'll do.
Very good, John.
Wanda-
Thank you.
Wanda, you want me to email him or you want to email him tomorrow?
I had done it already, John. So maybe
do it.
coming from you,
Yep.
I emailed him and he said he wasn't aware that it was coming from the Affordable Housing Trust, but I know I put it in my email, but maybe he just missed that part. So I think he can do it, but maybe just a little boost.
Yep.
All right. I really don't have too much to cover at this point. Everything that would have been in my report, we've pretty much talked about already. So we're going to see the next thing on our agenda, and that
Mayor,
would be one. Go ahead, Kevin.
If I may. So we have, I've got a subscription for WebEx that's $20 a month. I just want to know if should we keep it open or do we want to take action and close it? As I said, it's $20 a month. I need to actually give Tiffany an updated invoice for it. I've been paying it out of pocket, but given the fact that we're going to live meetings, I don't know as a contingency if we want to keep it in our back pocket available or if we should cancel that subscription.
How hard, Kevin, if we had to use it again after we went live? If you canceled it, is it a deal or not?
I have no idea. I would probably just have to reset it up, set it up again.
I would say just for the sake of some cushion, I would say go through probably July, and if things go smoothly and we don't have any issues, then I would say come August, cancel it. What do you think?
That sounds fair. I don't know how others may feel.
Yeah, I'd agree too.
That's good.
$20 is chump change. It would be more aggravation than the $20 if we closed it and then had to go through the process again.
Right.
Yeah.
My only
And
thought
I
is-
don't know, I don't know if that $20 rate was a COVID rate, and if you cancel and
That's what I was gonna
re-up,
say.
if it would be like back to their normal rates or something. I'm not sure.
That's what
that
I was
that could
wondering, Councilman Melvin, and I thought if it's going to have a resurgence, it would probably likely be more in the fall.
Yeah.
So do you want to keep it through December? I mean, $20 a month, 20 times 6 is what, $120? That doesn't,
Yeah.
just in case. But it's up to you. I figure
I,
better safe than sorry, but that's my thought.
I would almost agree because what it says, we're not going to know until we go live, and it may take a month or two till we see the effects of what could happen or will happen if there are problems. So
Yeah. Plus,
just
after the
insurance policy.
depending on how the election goes, things may change too.
I guess we'll see about that.
Yeah.
All right, moving to the discussion on one of these foreclosed properties that we ended up with. I think we're all kind of familiar with this one, 608, 627. This is a property that's down there, kind of almost catty corner to Warren Glen Grocery. Wanda and I today online, whatever the pictures were that were last available on it. And side of the house from when the pictures were taken was not bad, but the holes in the roof have been there for many years now, and I can't imagine the inside still looks like that. This is one of the properties that we had talked about before with Daryl, that there's potential there. If so chooses, could also be another Habitat for Humanity house as well, or project. If things go smoothly and everybody's happy with the other one, we could possibly go that route, or as Kevin Benbrook had said, if we don't want to go that avenue, we could put this one out to auction. There was very little interest, I guess, when the bank had it, but I would think as a buildable lot, this would have some potential to someone. It probably isn't floodplain, so there's probably a lot more red tape with a new structure. But it is a property that we need to, as Kevin said, get back on the tax rolls. I
What's the
welcome
lot
any
size, Mayor?
input from anybody else. Pardon?
Do you know what the lot size is?
I do not against Musconetcong River. And to me, riverfront property is always valuable to the right person.
What I thought I would do, guys, is I just was thinking this as I was talking earlier. I have the deed. I had to get title searches on each property that we now own. So I will pull out the deed for each property, and most of those deeds do have meets and bounds descriptions, and I'll attach them one at a time and summarize real quick, and also try to give you a property address just so you guys can have some feel for what these properties consist of.
We did get an email today from Wayne
Did you?
that provided information on all of them with maps that showed where they were
great.
located. So that one said what the acreage is, but I don't have that home with me right now.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I'd asked Wayne to do that. Well, fine. Then we're getting some good information. I think we just recorded the final judgment, and but we should start getting our ducks in order. We'll wait 45 days. I think there's a 45-day post-judgment appeal period, and but by late summer, yeah, we could really be taking action on these. And if you guys think you might want to hold one of them for Habitat, that's fine. How are they doing down there? Have they done anything? Have they demolished the other property? Really?
Yeah, they did do demo.
I can tell you, just so you guys are aware, we had done a deal with the same branch of Habitat in Franklin Township. They just threw their last 2 building permits, and then put up 6 units and next to each other, one after the other, and everybody's very happy with them. Very, very happy. They are a really good organization. So.
Yeah, that's why I was asking about the lot size, because I know one of them was a 5-acre parcel down there.
A lot of them are next to parkland and in floodplains. So Wayne's recommendations were some to just include in parkland, like the ones on Lock Street by Huntington and Homa Fields. And then, but I have a question, Kevin Benbrook.
Yeah.
This 608 County Road 627, if I remember correctly, Wayne's report said that it borders a floodplain. Would that be required to have flood insurance? And then would that be a hindrance to being a Habitat for Humanity?
Well, typically what if you're building new, you would elevate right off the bat, and then you don't need the flood insurance.
Right.
So what you would have to do is you'd have to get a topographical survey to establish the 100-year flood elevation, and you can either, if depending on where that line falls, Wanda, you could slide the building maybe out of the floodplain, or you can build up so that your footboard, you generally want to be what they call 1 footboard above the maximum 100-year flood, and then you don't need flood insurance.
I think it's too close to the road to move it much.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right, Wanda.
Yeah. Well, it would still be doable with just elevate. I mean, elevating is not hard if you're building from scratch, you know?
Yeah, I don't think that house is exactly in the floodplain, but it's right, it does border it. And I don't think that lot's really big. I bet it's an acre or so.
It's half.
Yeah,
It's
the other-
0.4.
Yeah.
0.4 of an acre. There you go.
I mean, I can tell you if it's waterfront, if Habitat doesn't want it, I think the mayor's right, or whoever said, they're not making any more waterfront, that somebody will want that.
Depends on where the water is,
Absolutely.
Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you say waterfront, you mean on the Delaware waterfront? Delaware
It's the
waterfront?
Musconetcong River.
Oh, it's Muskie. Okay. Well, still, I mean, Steve, you got a beautiful place along the river there. I mean, somebody may well want that.
Well, I would think you just have to wait 45 days, Kevin, till we can do anything now.
Yeah, but I will give you the exact date, but we're in the middle of that 45 days now. I just got back the recorded final judgment from the county clerk. So, by our next meeting, we should largely be through that. So we can start thinking about what we want to do.
All right. Sounds good.
Mayor Stack, real quick, I got a reply back from Joe. He'll be cutting that Habitat check this week, by end of the week. So they can tell them to expect that very soon, this week coming up. And then also to Kevin, to answer your question about the ARP, that's the American Rescue Plan, which allocates various levels of funding, but money to local governments.
Okay. Is that from COVID money?
Isn't that for education, isn't it, John?
It's from Biden announced the signing of the American Rescue Plan, which allocates various levels of funding, but this is to local governments, not to the schools, but to local governments.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we got $322K for that.
All right. Moving on now, we have some solutions this evening. I'll see how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 resolutions. Everybody take a minute and look through them, see if anybody got any questions on any of them. If not, we can take them all together.
Who are the liquor licenses for?
Wanda, can you answer that by chance?
Yes, I can. It is for Corey Walbach, who is holding the liquor license as the sole proprietor for the Old Hoots. Then we have Bourbon Street Liquors. We have a liquor license for Quaker Steak and Lube and Ruby Tuesday, which are renewing in an inactive status. The license for Quaker Steak and Lube is also in the process of doing a person-to-person transfer to keep the license so that maybe something else will come in there. And then the Firehouse has their social license, the club license.
Quaker Steak then's not coming back if they're looking to transfer it, I would assume.
I think they might put something else there, but not Quaker Steak and Lube. They want to send another person wants to buy it.
Okay.
But it's a person that's part of National Realty just to keep the license for. So we'll have some liquor license transfers.
The one for Ruby Keys is being paid for as well, Wanda?
Yes, it's gonna be a pocket license. That
Okay.
means it's inactive. Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
you guys want to hold on to those licenses for dear life, because with your population, if you lose one, you'll never get it back.
That's what I was just
Right.
saying. I want
Yeah,
to stay in the town.
yeah, we want to keep those.
Well, that's how Corey got the one from Hoos,
Right.
because that ended up going to a tax sale with the state ABC. So that's how Corey got that one. But he's looking to get that incorporated too and be ready to open later within the next month or so.
All right. Any other questions for resolutions?
Just the tonnage
Yeah,
grant
it's-
application? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ingrid here. The engineer had requested a resolution to authorize him to apply for LAF funding for the Ohio Street culvert.
I thought we approved that in May.
No, this is new.
No, I didn't
This
see
was
that
in his
Ingrid. I
memo
didn't
that he
read
just sent out. I'm sorry.
Didn't we
Go ahead,
author,
Wanda.
didn't we authorize him to do an approval for Ohio in May to submit? I thought.
That was the
This was a new problem.
NJDOT grant for Ohio, which is that biannual that you typically get a grant every other year. I
Yeah.
think I didn't read Wayne's report. Maybe he's asking for another DOT grant, LAF, as Ingrid's saying, for the culvert and something else.
Yeah, he said there's a significant problem with that culvert and that we really need to apply for this because it would be expensive.
Do
Okay.
you have any
let's-
idea for the wording, Ingrid, at all, or Wanda, either one of yous, or not? I mean, we can add it tonight. If not, we need for language, we'll have to wait till next meeting.
Wasn't it
Well-
just an approval to apply for the leaf grant for Ohio? The culvert?
We-
I mean,
You know what we did for the May meeting was we approved it by motion, and then I included the full worded resolution right behind it. So if you want to do that again for the LAIF grant, I can ask Wayne or Jason to email me the full resolution that they need to submit with it.
All right, so you
Yeah, well, he
add it
made
as a
that.
motion.
Let's add it as a resolution to authorize an NJLA. Ingrid, what is it? LAIF grant?
Yes.
For,
LAIF grant funding for the
Ohio
Ohio Street
culvert.
culvert.
And anything else, was it?
That's all he seemed to want from the meeting tonight.
Okay, let's just add it so we'll have 12 resolutions. How's that?
All right, sounds good. Wanda?
what's the tonnage one?
Oh, the tonnage grant is the recycling grant that we submit each year, which gives you money back, like for clean communities. It's all about you get a percentage of amounts you've recycled. Typically, the resolution's done in April, but we had a new CFO and things weren't, because of COVID, all the reports weren't filed. So this usually is done in April to be filed in June, but I have it on here late, so it's got to be due.
Okay.
That's the one that I've been getting emails from the DEP on, correct, Wanda?
Correct. It was filed today, though,
Okay.
Mayor. We're good.
Okay.
All right. I'll move all of them forward. All 12, Melvin.
Second, Babinski.
Okay, Babinski,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
and Slack.
Yes. All right, moving on to ordinances. I know this ordinance we're going to discuss. I don't know if we're going to table after discussion or how we want to handle this, but this ordinance has to do with the state now allowing marijuana usage, growing, so forth and so on within the state. It's going to be up to townships to regulate it as they see fit. I had a conversation with Ingrid about this earlier, and also Councilman Babinski. I made some phone calls to Phillipsburg. I talked with Mayor today. I spoke at length with our chief of police as well. There is an opportunity here for the township for some additional revenue, as Ingrid had pointed out. I don't know if we want to go down the road of totally prohibiting anything to do with cannabis within the township or not. So I'm going to open it up to discussion. There was multiple different things that we could allow or disallow, but we have to make a decision. Otherwise, everything will be allowed.
And
So,
Mayor, if I
go ahead,
could
Kevin.
just elaborate on that.
Absolutely.
It's they kind of skewered the process a little bit, and I say that because if we have until August 22nd to do something, okay? If we do nothing on either all of the categories or any category that we take no action on, that we're stuck with that category for 5 years, and we can't change our mind. And anything in that category that comes into the town will be forever thereafter protected. The opposite is not true if you opt out. If we opt out, like this ordinance that I drafted, again, I have no stake in this game. This is a political decision for you guys. But the way I drafted this one, I opted out of everything. If you opt out, you don't have any 5-year limitation whatsoever on opting in. So if you opted out, if you enacted this ordinance as is, and then say in September you decide, you know what, we're seeing how the regulations go, maybe the farming aspects, the manufacturing aspects, or whatever we want to opt back in. You're absolutely free to do that. There's no 5-year, restriction. So, and again, I could.
I read your memo differently, Kevin.
Yeah.
The way I read it was, if you opted into anything, that you could change your mind within that 5-year period. So what you're saying now is, once you say yes to something, you're locked in for 5 years?
Yes.
Yep, that's it.
Yes.
Okay.
Or
So
Kevin, if you take no action, that's considered a yes.
Right. Silent
So
consent.
you actually have to opt out to give yourself flexibility, is what I'm kind of saying. Now,
Right.
and again, you guys can pick and choose amongst these categories. That's totally up to you guys, but I just wanted to explain that to you.
Yeah.
Kevin, the way I'm understanding you, we would go forward with as it's written.
Mm-hmm.
We could theoretically test the waters, see how other towns that have taken it have, say, a dispensary come in, or a grower or whatever, and then make judgment at that point as to what we want to do.
Correct.
Rather
And there's a
than
lot
jump
of townships doing
with
that.
both.
Yeah, a lot of townships don't want to be the guinea pig. They're kind of taken away. Again, a lot of the regulations really haven't been published even yet. Even on the manufacturing stuff, it's kind of unclear, like how much security. My general understanding is, even if you grow it outside, it could be very expensive, because you're going to have the whole perimeter of your property is going to have security fence, and I think lighting, and it's hard to say how everything's going to go, which is why some municipalities are taking the conservative route, opting out and kind of seeing how things unfold. I don't even think they have the retail dispensary regulations in place. There's a commission, of course, and New Jersey commissions never get anything done on time. So I don't anticipate this being cleared up by the time you have to decide, which is August 22nd.
I think
The other thing too,
that kind of helped me out a lot right there with that explanation. Be against then moving this ordinance forward and just and see how shake out, and maybe some of these other communities take out how things work out for them then.
and the other thing, Mayor and Council, I have set up a land use. This models the League of Municipalities form. So there's a prohibition in all zones that's in the ordinance, which would be a referral to the land use board. So you'll also, your land use board also have the opportunity to weigh in, which is kind of why I wanted to at least start the process now, so you guys have plenty of time to do that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if we introduce tonight, If it goes to the land use board and they come back with recommendations saying, whatever, we think we should opt into one or more of the categories, and then you guys decide to do that. And then we have a public hearing in the public, you hear from the public. We can always, we would have plenty of time to re-advertise if we felt we had to, or to adopt with amendments. You're not locked into what I've drafted. I've just kind of drafted it as a vehicle to keep the process moving.
Anybody else have any input on this?
So let me ask a question from a procedural perspective. If we were to adopt this tonight, when we go to public hearing.
Only first reading, Kevin.
Right. I'm sorry. If we were to approve this for first reading tonight, when we go to public hearing, and there's based upon the public hearing, we want to amend. Do we have to go again for another meeting, or
No.
can we approve after that? We can amend after public hearing.
I would feel comfortable doing that. Absolutely. This is a specific procedure that's been set up by the legislature, and I would be comfortable doing that in this instance. As Wanda knows, in a typical ordinance situation, if you have a significant amendment, sometimes it requires re-advertising. But I think, given that we have a clear statutory deadline, I would be comfortable with that process, Kevin, that you just outlined.
Okay.
So yeah, Kevin, so now that you clarified that if we do opt out and at any time we can opt back in, then I'm for, moving this ordinance along, just because that gives us the flexibility. We're not tied in anything, and then we can play a wait and see approach and make the best decision down the road.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, I've had some, obviously I've stated on the record some opinions about this specific to the retail. And I've had some good conversations individually with, Councilman Stillo and Councilwoman Gray. And I think everybody's got good points to make here. In fact, if it wasn't allowed to amend after public hearing, I was going to actually recommend to table this for a month so that we could do some further, at least for myself, some further investigation, because, some of the information that I've seen causes me a little bit to pause here. But I'm comfortable with the process as it was outlined. The way I interpreted it previously was completely 180 degrees different than what you said tonight. So,
sorry if I was unclear in my memo. That's my fault. Also, guys,
it was probably user error. So
I did a 7.5 hour seminar on this as part of my continuing liquid education credits I have to accrue every 2 years, and as part of that, I downloaded a pretty darn comprehensive manual in a PDF format. I will forward that to Wanda and to each of you. Maybe Wanda could even, if you guys want, could probably throw it up on the website, and then each of you guys can peruse that if you choose. It's pretty comprehensive.
that'd be great.
All right, so the discussion that we've had, we're going to have this ordinance for first reading then, and be on for second reading at our next council meeting. We can have a hearing if we need to make any amendments to it at that point. From what Kevin said, we can do so. Wanda, do we need to vote on this to have it at
Yes.
first reading or not?
Yes.
We need a motion to introduce.
All right. I'll
Then I'll make a
entertain
motion to introduce it. Babinski.
Second,
I'll
Melvin.
second it.
Okay. Babinski,
Yes.
Gray,
Abstain.
Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
and Slack.
Yes. Wanda, when is our next council meeting this will be on for?
July
That was my
20.
question.
July 20.
Perfect.
Wanda, please make sure that gets referred to the land use board for their consistency review.
Yes, sir.
Because again, I did put a provision. There is a land use provision in there that it's excluded in all zones.
So if it's July 20th, then if we do adopt this ordinance at that meeting, we'll be in compliance then with that deadline, correct, Kevin?
Yeah, we'll be a month ahead of schedule. We'll be in great shape. And
All
if
right,
we
so
make
even-
substantial changes, to be honest with you, if we decide to make any substantial, we would even have time to re-advertise at that point. So
Yeah, right.
yeah,
All right.
we'll be in very good shape the way you guys took action tonight.
All right, very good. So from Councilman Stillo's report, we don't have any hearing and adoption of the budget, but that's still in the state's hands. Hopefully that'll get approved, kicked back to us that we can approve that at our July meeting. So moving on to motions now, we have 1, 2, 3. Looks like 3 motions. Do we need to add any additional motions?
I don't think so.
If not, I would entertain a motion for all 3 motions.
So,
So moved still.
second, Melvin.
Okay, Babinski,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
Melvin,
Yes.
Stillo,
Yes.
Slack.
Yes. All right, at this time, open it up to public comments on any items. Anybody have public comment they'd like to make, please be recognized by Councilman Melvin.
So if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature under the participants there, and or you can drop something in the chat and we'll recognize you for your public comment. I will let folks do it. We've got a good number of folks online tonight. If there's anyone out there. In the interim, Mayor, we did have a public comment from Kevin Snyder that couldn't make it this evening. So perhaps what I'll do is, while we're waiting for people to find the raise hand or chat button, perhaps I can read that into the record.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
just before the meeting, 4 talking
Okay.
points, it seemed like.
Okay, so he has 4 items here that he's listed, and I'll go ahead and read the first one. The quarry continues to take in aggregate daily. Is there any oversight to what is going on? The last conversation held between the council and the township attorney determined that the quarry should not be bringing in any type of aggregate, sand, stone, or asphalt. I leave for work each day at 6:30 a.m. and see the trucks driving down River Road to the quarry entrance 3 to 4 times a week. Number 2, what permits has the quarry obtained which would allow them to pour concrete? There have been concrete trucks entering and exiting the quarry today, at least 6, and they can be heard pouring from our property. Attached is a photo. Item 3, the council has discussed changing the quarry ordinance for 2 consecutive months. However, there is still nothing on the agenda. Where are we with this? This has been a resubmission of the site plan. There has been a resubmission of the site plan to the land use board. Number 4, has there been any thought to changing the weight limit for River Road? There has been quite a bit of movement of heavy machinery in and out of the quarry, which is breaking down the roadway significantly, especially at the corner of Snyder's and River Road. And that, again, was entered by Kevin Snyder through an email to the clerk.
All right,
Okay.
for the record, I can speak to some of those briefly, Melvin. I did reach out to the quarry here, Mr. Godfrey, yesterday, and I asked him what was in these inbound trucks coming in early in the morning. And as previously discussed, it's sand coming out of South Jersey. The trucks are loaded. The brought and parked. The person actually, it seemed as though it was doing this, is the one who bought Mrs. Holmes' property. The trucks are leaving the property and then headed to the quarry in the morning. I did remind Mr. Godfrey of the hours that they're not supposed to be before 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever it is. And he has assured me that he's reached out to all the drivers to try to rectify the situation. I had thought we had discussed the sand portion of this before. I know Mr. Babinski's talked that Lou had sand in there all the time. Personally, I don't see an issue with sand either. That would be his first talking point. As far as the concrete trucks coming in, Steph Snyder counted 7 concrete trucks coming in today. They are doing some kind of on-site. Steph, who would the enforcing agency be? And I said if it's construction, it would be a building permit. So Stephanie was going to follow up with the state down in Asbury on that one. As far as where the quarry stands, that whole thing is at the land use board, if I am correct, right, Kevin Benbrook? That's where it stands at this point?
Yes, yes. And I think that any concrete issues could also again be a site plan issue. You can't, they are a commercial operation. It's like Steve knows, you guys know that are in business. You can't expand anything, that's not already there without site plan approval. So I'm not quite sure if they're just stabilized. I think they have some concrete pads already. Maybe they're just doing some repairs, and that would be allowed. I'm not sure about the construction permit aspect, but I'm sure these things will come up during the site plan. I mean, I've seen drone photos of this, so it's not like they're going to hide anything.
Oh, absolutely. And if we go in there on an inspection or Wayne would, it's not like they can throw a big tarp over whatever they're doing.
Right.
So I kind of, they're smart enough to research what they need permits for and what they don't. So
And
I
as
find
far as
that they would try to pull something.
I would find that I would be surprised there too. And as far as the ordinance aspect, I covered that earlier in my report. There are procedural hurdles to that are extensive in terms of advertising. So again, the best way that is down there also at the land use board. They have explicit thoughts that you guys have conveyed through me, through my memo. They have draft ordinances. And I expect that to proceed. But again, we need to do a little, not a complete study. And Steve, I know, Steve, you were particularly concerned about that. I'm not talking about like the $10,000 or $15,000 comprehensive 10-year. This is more of an interim re-exam, which is permissible. And we'll just deal with those issues. But again, that will give us a structure where we don't have to do this excessive public noticing. Not that I have a problem with noticing, but the public, and they will be advertised, the ordinance amendments, but it's just the specific certified mailings you have to do become extreme. So that's where that stands.
All right, Kevin Benbrook. And Councilman Melvin, as far as the weight limit business, we had a conversation about this actually at the last meeting I was with the Southern mayors of Warren County, and the weight limit was brought up, and I think to put a weight limit restriction on a road has to, I can't hardly see doing it because in essence the quarry couldn't operate. And to me, the quarry's been there, it's been in operation. I don't know how it feels about weight limits on that road, but I just don't think that's the proper solution to the problem. Anybody else have any thoughts on that or not?
Well, I think they could challenge something like
I
that.
would say so.
I would agree. I think if you try to put them out of business through an ancillary mechanism like that's going to be a lawsuit.
It's like trying to zone them out after they're already in. Yeah, you can't.
But I do want to say,
it's asinine.
yeah, I would.
We don't fight.
I would say one other thing, and I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at them. I circulated a couple of quarry licensing ordinances. Now, this is not zoning, the licensing ordinances. I think one was from Sparta and maybe one was from Byram. They're a little bit more comprehensive. Well, in some senses, a lot more comprehensive than what we have. And some things I did think about for the residents where we as a council could maybe give some assistance in a balanced fashion. Things like hours of operation. I mean, again, if I live down there, I don't know if I want a truck going down the road at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday at least. So there's some things we could do. I don't know if anybody on the council has had a chance to look at any of those. I think I also forwarded them to Wayne, but if there's any thought to strengthening our quarry ordinance, I'll work on that. Like that, we don't need land use board, action for that. That's our ordinance. And maybe it's a time to update that. If you guys have an interest, I'll work on that. I did circulate the drafts of a couple ordinances I thought were pretty strong.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's take that up next month.
Then what I will do before our next meeting, or hopefully I will circulate a draft just for talking purposes to keep the ball moving on that end of things, because they're going to be coming in for a quarry license renewal too later this year. So, and our current ordinance really deals mostly with just reclamation. And since they're going to be putting apparently a large solar project on a piece of it, that I think we want to get a little bit more detailed on operational aspects, and we can do that too in the quarry ordinance. So I'll work on that.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin Melvin, do you see anybody from the public at this point that would like to make comments?
I do not. Once again, if you'd like to make public comment, please use the raise hand feature or type your name in the chat to be recognized for public comment.
Kevin, while you're watching for that, Mayor, do you think the guy on Municipal Drive got permits for the 5 miles of millings he put in his yard?
Comment, Steve.
Well, I mean, it's serious. Seriously, I mean, I would have to think that he got some kind of driveway permit or something. But geez, he's got his entire yard is paved with millings.
Yeah, I saw that, and I question just the amount of.
And it's not the millings part of it. It's not the millings that concern me. It's the amount of pavement in his yard.
Yeah. The driveway issue would be a county issue, I believe, because that's a county road.
Okay.
As far as the millings, that would be an impervious coverage thing. I don't know where it would go. I don't know. I don't have any comment on it. I have to abstain from any comment on that one.
Mayor, we do have a user looking to be recognized, Stephanie Snyder. Stephanie, do you want to go ahead and make a comment? Stephanie, are you on mute? I can't tell. Hold on. You're on mute, Stephanie. Let's see if I could do it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now we can hear you, Steph.
I'm sorry, I'm on my phone. I just thank you for reading the comment into the public session. I just have one question, and Mayor, thank you for your clarification. But again, here we are, and I'm asking who was checking. You know, we're taking Godfrey's word for what's coming in, that it's sand. We're assuming that any concrete that's going in there is to fix what's already there. Who is checking? There's no one checking. The only things that you know of came from drone coverage from undisclosed resident to show that they continue to do things outside of what's allowable. So my only question to the whole council is, who's checking? Other than my husband and I taking pictures daily, who has been in there to verify that it's sand coming in? Who was in there to verify that they're not going forward? Somebody needs to check. Thank you.
Steph, I'll briefly comment. I had a conversation with Godfrey yesterday or the day before, and he had forwarded me the tracking trucks that you were in question out of South Jersey, leaving South Jersey, parking at Mrs. Holman, leaving the Holman property the following day, and headed to the quarry with the sand. Now, obviously, I didn't see what was in the trucks, but I do have the GPS tracking on those trucks. I don't know if that clarifies for you or not, but as I said, I do have it on, I believe it was at least 3 loads that you had questioned.
Dave, I know Kevin and I have been following the trucks to see where they're going and where they're coming from. And that's fine. There may be ones coming from South Jersey with sand. They're also coming from Allentown. They're coming from Hellertown. We're watching because we have to. This is our livelihood. It's our property values. I need somebody from council, somebody with authority to be working as hard as we are.
As far as the sand, guys, there were some pictures circulated previously, and I think Steve Babinski may have alluded to, yes, Lou did have some limited stockpiles of sand there. But again, I'm not suggesting that that's not something within the land use board's jurisdiction to put limitations on. It's one thing to have, 30 yards of sand stockpile. It's another thing to have 330 yards, so again, they're going to have to establish, what their plan of operation is. And I don't think we're obligated to require to let them have, unlimited amounts of sand. That'll be up to the board and the site plan. Quarries are used to be meant for mining things out of the quarries, but as they become mined out and there's less and less material, this particular quarry seems to be becoming more of a transitional operation where it's more of a depot type operation, and that's going to be up to your land use board to decide the limitations on.
Well, if this sand is going in, it's got to be coming back out again.
Yeah, I think, Steve, my understanding is they're bringing sand in. What's happening is there's a lot of Warren County quarries that are basically tapped out.
Right.
As you know, every septic system requires select fill, and of course with the cesspool rules now, every other sale of a real piece of real estate, Steve, that I do, they're replacing the septic system. So I think a lot of what's going on is as local resources are depleted in terms of the sand, I think quarries such as the quarry in our township here are bringing in outside sand, and quarries are a logical, delivery and pickup point for pickup trucks taking it to various job sites. And that I think is a lot of what's going on. Lou was really not operational at all, hardly at the end. These new owners obviously are, but again, we can impose some limitations on that during site plan review. And
well, Kevin, Wayne Ingram and Wayne Williver did our septic system, and every bit of it came from the quarry down there. The sand, the select fill, everything came from the quarry.
It has to, Steve. I know, Harmony Sand and Gravel. A lot of the local gravel pits are pretty much out of the good sand, and
there were tons and tons and tons of stuff too. I mean, it wasn't any.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it was a lot of stuff. Trucks.
That's why your replacement septic systems cost 30 grand or 40 grand sometimes, Steve. Yeah.
And Steve, I can report, I actually was behind one of those trucks, from when I turned on Winters Road all the way down to 519, up Municipal, down 627, and it was sand all the way because it was little bits of sand were coming out. So
I've seen the same. I was up at the Quick Check the other morning early, and there were 4 trucks came by, and they absolutely had sand in them.
Yeah.
Councilman Melvin, do we have any other public comment?
I do not see any other public comment, Mayor.
All right, do we have anything that we need to discuss in executive session this evening?
Not to my knowledge, Mayor.
All right, if
Nope.
we have no executive session, anything else that needs to be discussed this evening?
Not for me.
I'm
Hearing
done.
none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Actually, I do have one thing.
All right, go ahead, Kevin.
Not quick enough.
Yeah. Jeff, are you still online?
No, Jeff has signed off. He sent me a text. He signed off.
Okay, I've got some, for years, we've been talking about that area that goes to the front of the municipal building coming from the side parking lot where Wanda parks. I've got some stepping stones I'm going to drop off down there, just so that people don't have to walk through the grass and stuff like that. So I'll
Oh, no,
get them down to
Councilman
him.
Melvin, they just put in the new sidewalk that goes from like where the mailbox is
Oh,
to
did
the
they?
steps. Yep.
Yeah, they did that a
Yep,
couple
they
weeks
just
ago.
did it. Yep, it's a beautiful new sidewalk.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay, well, day late and dollar short. All right,
That's all
well, then I'll move to adjourn then.
Second, Stillo.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.